Welcome to the Rock is George podcast. I'm your host, George Dionne, and this is episode 134. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to hit like, follow, or subscribe on the platform you're listening to us on. You can also check me out at the loudest.com on the planet, knac.com, for exclusive interviews, live show coverage, and more. My guest for this episode is drummer Garry Peterson of the legendary Canadian act, The Guess Who. I think everyone is familiar with the Guess Who's mega hit, American Woman, as well as their other hits, These Eyes, No Sugar Tonight, and others. In 2018, after about a 40-year break of making new music, the Guess Who returned with The Future Is What It Used to Be, with their new frontman Derek Sharp at the helm. The album went on to have great success and was a hit among the critics as well. On June 30th, the Guess Who is set to release their latest album, PLEIN D'AMOUR, through Deko Entertainment. And here's Garry Peterson to tell you more about it. If I knew absolutely nothing about the Guess Who, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Both traditionally and currently, I would describe it as quite varied. Because when you have a band that goes from These Eyes to She's Come Undone, which is almost a jazz tune, to No Time, which is kind of West Coast country rock almost in a way, to American Woman, what genre would you put them in? Even further to that, I mean, those were the hits. So they were really made for radio. But if you went further and really dove into the 13 or 14 albums on RCA and listened to the album cuts, you'd go, this doesn't even sound like the same band. Because we were influenced and still are. Even the current members of the band grew up listening to this band and loving this band. And we all listened to the Beatles and the Stones and, you know, Elton John and then Queen and then AC/DC. I mean, we're constantly, the Jellyfish, we're constantly listening to music, and you are influenced by music. That's what inspires Derek to write a song like The King, which is on our new album. You know, everybody thinks, wow, that sounds like the Queen meets Jellyfish or 10cc. But it's because we love all music in this band. Therefore, that's going to be reflected in how we write and how we play.
On your latest album, PLEIN D'AMOUR, comes out on June 30th on Deko Entertainment. I sort of feel the spirit of the 60s and 70s in what I'm hearing from the album.
Yes, and some of the songs were written quite a while ago, but we didn't have the band at that time to be able to play those songs. And this current edition of the band, hopefully, which we can keep together, I'm hoping, it's a crazy world out there. It was the right time to do these songs. And they do, as I said, sound, you said they harken back to a different time, just because of what we talked about, the influence of the people we grew up listening to and the people that made us want to be in a rock band. And I'm sure I've heard it from many bands that, you know, their heroes have always influenced them.
I feel that maybe you thought that this record would have never been made, between the fact that your last album, The Future Is What It Used to Be, was released in 2018, and you're talking about some lineup changes there, and then we had the whole world shut down. So it must be pretty refreshing to get this album out and into the ears of everyone.
Well, I have to say, you know, we had an impediment here from the last album, which I thought was really good. I don't know whether you listened to it, but I thought it was a good start to another era of the band. The Future Is What It Used to Be. But that album was put together and done by Willie Vankovich, the guitar player at the time, and Derek Sharp were kind of the spearhead for them. Well, after we put that album out, STYX steals our writer, one of the producers, and songwriters. So we had to kind of pull the pants up a little bit and kind of start all over again. And I thought I loved that album. And for me, having played all these songs for over 50 years, you have to know that I'm starving to play new music, just like any normal musician. I mean, that's what we do. We create music, we create moods, we create lyrics and songs for people to listen to. And if you keep playing the same songs, which I love all our songs, but the point is, there's this creative thing inside of you that wants to get out. And I'm so happy to be able to be, at my age, be a part of this, the new kind of renaissance of the band. And to be also be able to bring you, help bring the talent of Derek and Michael in our band to the rest of the world.
It's funny that, you mentioned prior to when we got started about the internet being a good tool to help people discover bands like the Guess Who. I also think kind of this resurgence of vinyl, which younger people are really taking off on, are helping people go back and discover kind of the music of the 60s, the 70s, when things weren't so digital and things weren't so computerized. And they're really taking an appreciation for the warmth and the effort that went behind this kind of music.
Well, I think a lot of people missed our era, which was you'd wait for the next album by your favorite group, whether it was the Beatles or the Stones, and you'd want to see what instruments are they playing, what are they wearing, what are they writing about, the lyrics, it's all there. And that's a package that has gone by the wayside. And I think younger people, and I hope they are, and I see it every day, they're kind of longing for that to come back, to be involved in that kind of situation where how you follow your favorite band by albums and by all this material that I guess it's done in the digital world now, basically, but they have that in their hands, right in their house, and they're listening to the music and they're looking at the album, and that's kind of the nostalgia of that. I know I looked at our vinyl that will be coming out, and the vinyl is actually spectacular. It's a piece of art in a way, because it's not just black anymore. It's got painting splashes on it, and all kind. I'm going, wow, I might go out and buy this myself, right? It's good to see that coming back, obviously, because it's part of we call them records. We still call it, what's your latest record? Well, that really doesn't exist. It's a digital byte. So I think there's room for all of it. Audiophiles want to listen to the vinyl, and we've just heard our test pressing, and it sounds pretty good. And sonically, when I listened to it, I went, oh, so that's what it was like, kind of thing. And I just think it's a great part of it. And as for younger fans or people that didn't know who the band The Guess Who was, the internet and all of the stuff that's God, thank God it's still there. Like the master tapes aren't lost or anything like that, or there's all kinds of stories about things being destroyed. Our stuff is all there, so it can be there for as long as someone cares to put it out there. And that's marvelous for the audience to be able to search it out and find it. And hopefully they find something that makes them feel great.
When it comes to songwriting for PLEIN D'AMOUR, is Derek Sharp the main lyricist, and then the band?
Derek is the main driving force. He's an awesome talent. He plays guitar great lead guitar player and pianist. And I know he's a great drummer because I watch him sitting and moving his feet and hands sometimes, and I go, this guy can play drums too, you know. So he's a great talent and writes great songs. Hopefully, you know, we can. It's always good for a songwriter to have co-partners to be able to bounce ideas off, and hopefully with our next record, which we're really already talking about as we sit here, our this album has been released. We're talking about the next one, which is a good thing. That's great to be enthusiastic about what you're doing, and so hopefully there can be maybe a little bit more in it, but that takes time between band members. You know, we don't have the time goes by so quickly now. Oh, that's a lyric in one of our songs. Like, wow, you know, we don't have the time to go and move into a house somewhere like the old days and eat and sleep and music and get up whenever you. That's not a thing that happens at our age. So we have to kind of try to speed up the process of the band melding into a band and creating new music. It's kind of a shame in a way we're not all 20 anymore. But I feel with this band and with the music that we've done, when I get on stage, I can't wait. I love playing These Eyes and Laughing and Undone and No Time, American Woman and Clap for the Wolfman. But I wait for these new songs to be played because it fills a creative need that every musician has. What will the people think of this? How will it affect them? Will it make them happy? Will it have the right effect? So it's kind of an exciting time for me. I hope I have enough time left to really do some more and enjoy it.
You're so confident in this new material from PLEIN D'AMOUR that you're playing up to 4 songs on a live set list, and from what I understand, the crowds are very receptive to this.
Yeah, I mean, our manager, kind of agent, Randy Irwin, came out to the last show. I think it was in Tulsa, and I heard the board tape of some of the new songs, and I became a fan of the band at that point. And he said, you guys sound better every time I come and see you. And I guess it's because, you know, we're putting in some work as best as we can, living, you know, in 5 or 6 different cities across the continent. We don't, when we're home, we don't have a chance. So everything we do is we have to get together to do. And it's mostly done on the road while we're touring. You know, we're rehearsing at sound checks and doing this and that. So it's a bit of a harder way to do it, as we discussed, rather than living in a house and being together all the time. It's a little bit more difficult, but you know, it's great to play those songs in the show. And the real, as you mentioned, the real proof is how the fans react to it. And I quite frankly, I had no idea what it would be like, but it's great, and they seem to be enjoying the new music.
Even though I have a French Canadian last name, I don't know what PLEIN D'AMOUR is or what it stands for. So you'll have to clear that up for me.
Well, it's kind of the theme of the album. I mean, there was a real small group at one time in the world that put out records, and they said, all you need is love. If you remember that group, that small, unimportant band, which we've all copied ad nauseum. This is about PLEIN D'AMOUR, actually translate to full of love. So it's another way of saying that this may be, and the album has that thread. If you look at this next single that's going to be released off the album, is called People Around Me. And it's all about the fact that love is maybe an answer that we've forgotten about. And that's just a kind of a gentle reminder. And we are, when we go on stage, as Derek says all the time, plein d'amour means full of love, which we are for all the people that come to see us. And that's pretty simple.
Absolutely. And sort of the chaos we've all lived through the last couple of years, we could use a lot more love than what we were going through then.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I mean, it's, you take things for granted in life all the time. We are all guilty. I'm guilty of it. Everybody's guilty of it. But every once in a while, you have to sit down and take stock and understand really what's going on with you in your life and with the world. And there's if being more civil and more loving of the people that we are with and come in contact with every single day is something that's very simple, but very important.
You're releasing Plein D'Amour through Deko Entertainment. How did you hook up with Deko?
I think it was through our guitar player, Michael Sterto, knew a fellow down in Florida, oddly enough, where I live, that got us in touch with them. It's I mean, the world of record companies is not, as we discussed when I first talked to you, it's a whole different world. They were big powerhouses in the past, and now it's like you put a guy can put out a record and he could sell millions of copies of his little basement recording, and no one in the rest of the world has heard about it, right? And that's really the way it is. So we got in touch with them. We were on Cleopatra Records before with the first album, which is another small little label, and it's kind of a vehicle, and they've done a good job so far for us. And I mean, we cannot do touring and recording and producing and then putting it out. It's an impossible task. You need people to help you to get the music out to the masses, and then it's up to the people, which it always has been. The people will tell you, and if you have to listen to them. This is what we like, this is what we don't like. I think our biggest problem is that, and I see it on the internet all the time, well, I sort of like the new music, but it's not the Guess Who. Well, no, it can't be. Even if the Guess Who were together today, they wouldn't be writing No Sugar Tonight or American Woman. That's from 50, 60 years ago. You change as a person. The original band wouldn't feel the same way as they felt then. So there's kind of, when you have a track record like we have, there's that hardcore fan base that really would like it to sound like No Sugar Tonight. But that's not possible. You know, you in your life are nowhere near what you were at 20 years old right now. You just don't do the same things, and you've progressed. Everybody progresses in life. So our music is kind of progressed to that point. However, even as I listen to it, and people don't understand, but I'm a musician, so I do. There are elements from the past in our new music, no doubt about it. You know, because, and we talked about this before, we all grew up listening and enjoying the same music. The Beatles, you know, I went through the list. We're all influenced that. So obviously everything we do is going to be some of that. You know, it's in the back of your mind. You can't help it. You know, sometimes a guy will write a song and he goes, wow, that's really good. But it sounds like it. And then 2 weeks later, oh, geez, that's part of the Beatles song. I mean, you know, it's just the way things happen. So it's kind of hard for us to compete with our own selves. we're competing with our own bad selves when we put new music up. So I'm very, very happy that the new music is receiving the reception has got.
This is your second album with Derek Sharp. How did you end up recruiting him for the Guess Who?
Oh my goodness, this is a story. It's in my book that I'm trying to finish, but we played the last reunion of the original band. The last date we played was July 30th, 2003, and that would be at the SARS concert in Toronto. There were about 480 to 500,000 people there. It was with the Rolling Stones, AC/DC, Rush, Us, and many, many other acts. And I was backstage waiting to go on stage it was at an old airfield from World War II, where they had the Pope there many years ago, Pope John Paul. And sitting in the green room with my wife eating a lunch, and lady came up with her husband. I knew who the lady was. It was Sass Jordan, who's a huge star in Canada. And they said, "Do you mind if we sit down?" And no, come on. We sat there and had lunch with them and thought nothing of it. And then a couple of years later, when the original band would not stay together for whatever reason, we put the other Guess Who back together that we had previously, Jim Cale and I. And our singer got in an accident, Carl Dixon, in Australia. And so we quickly called someone we knew from Toronto, and Derek's name came up. I didn't realize it was the same gentleman I had a lunch with. And then I was shocked when he showed up in Houston for a corporate date we had. We had one rehearsal in the room with acoustic guitar for the entire Guess Who show. And he went on stage and sang it and played it. And now we fast forward to today, and here we are.
How long have you been working on this autobiography you're putting together?
Oh my God, 2 years. 2 years. I have to say it's been elating and devastating at the same time. It's a love-hate project. I didn't want to do this. I really didn't want to do it. And then I was sitting in my lanai out here in Florida, looking at the old live oak trees, some of them 100, 200 years old. And I said, these things have seen a lot of stuff. I mean, I feel like insignificant in comparison to these great trees that are here. But in a way, it made me think I need, while I'm still of sane mind and nothing has happened to me in my thought process, I need to lay down in words what my journey has been in this band. It's not, and the book is not spectacular. It's not full of, wild stories. It's my recollection of 60 years out of my life. And it's more than 60 years, because I was on stage from the time I was 4 years old, which is way before the band. So there's that early year of my child prodigy life in Winnipeg. And when you start doing that in your memory, you start opening doors that you never thought would open again, and see what's behind them. And it's been both, as I said, elating and depressing in a way. So I think in a way I've been kind of putting off finishing the book, because I don't know, is that the end of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you put the final period on the last sentence, is that the end? It's a kind of a love-hate project, but I promise I will finish it at some point. And that's amidst trying to tour and at the same time create new material. And with new material, which we didn't have in the old days, we're putting out 8 videos with each cut on the album. So it's been for my age quite ambitious, but I enjoy it. I mean, I'll do it as long as I can and to the best of my ability. And then when I can't do it, I hope somebody in the band says to me, you need to stop. But
you'll know when the time is right.
I guess so. I don't know. I've been so fortunate. I mean, I'm so blessed by God that I've been given this life, been able to play for so many great people and make them feel there's nothing. It's such a drug to go on stage and make people feel happy. It's like you're some kind of doctor. I'm so sorry. Let the healing begin.
You're going to be heading out shortly to promote this album on the road, PLEIN D'AMOUR live. You do the Weekend Warrior thing and tour across the country?
Well, really, it's we don't stop. We have breaks because there's no bookings, but it's not like we go out and plan a tour. And this is, some of the fans don't realize this. They want us to come to their area. Please come. Well, we can't come unless we're booked. We can't just show up somewhere. It's too costly to do that. We have to make sure our costs are covered. We have not ever stopped touring. We get breaks, like I say, because there's no, but now we have 4 dates coming up starting in, I think, Utah, and takes us from Utah to Duluth, Superior, to a private show outside of Minneapolis, and then we end at the Surf Ballroom in Iowa, which is the last date that Buddy Holly played. That's the place he flew out of when he got killed in that air crash, which we've played. Some of the rest of the guys in the band, I've been there like 3 or 4 times already, but this is kind of special for the rest of the guys in the band who are great admirers of Buddy Holly. Again, we're on tour, and then we'll come home for a few days, and then we'll go out, and then we'll come home, and then we'll go out. It's one continuous tour to promote the old music and revere the old music and all the great people that have passed through this band and their contribution to making the band what it is today. And now the new people who are promoting the new music of the Guess Who, carrying on that tradition that started way back in Winnipeg in 1962.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Gary. The new album is PLEIN D'AMOUR. It comes out June 30th on Deko Entertainment. Fantastic album. I got to say, it's the first real Guess Who album I've listened to from beginning to end, and I instantly took to the album.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that other people feel the same way, because that's, as I said, that's what we want to do. We want to make people feel good.
Absolutely. And I hope to speak with you again in the future when you have your new music coming out and maybe your autobiography. And I want to thank you for taking the time today.
I thank you so much. And I also encourage you to come out and meet the people in the band, and then you'll understand.
You come out to New England, I'll be there.
Thank you so much.
Once again, I want to thank Garry Peterson of the Guess Who for coming on the Rock is George podcast. Be sure to check out their latest album, PLEIN D'AMOUR, out June 30th through Deko Entertainment. Head over to your favorite music streaming platform. Take a listen to what's available. If you like what you hear, buy a physical copy. Support the artist. For all things The Guess Who, head over to their official website, theguesswho.com. I also want to thank Chip at Chipster PR and Deko Entertainment for making this interview possible. You've been great. I've been George Dionne. Discover your next favorite artist on the Rock is George podcast.